welcome to Conversation with Grandma Polly. This is the place where huh? This is the place where we highlight children and families who have overcome the many adversities of life. Life sometimes can be overwhelming. We all know that. But as many of us, we've been through some adversities and we've been served lemons. But many of us have taken the lemons and made lemonade. Today, I'd like to remind you October is Domestic Violence Month. Did you know domestic violence can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, psychological, technical actions, and threats of forced behavior that influences another person within an intimate relationship? I want you to put a pin right there because this is a conversation that we're getting ready to dive into. I'll be right back.
Here come the big rig kids, y'all. Are you ready? Let's go. Here come the big rig kids. Roll with the big rig kids. Let's fire the truck, take you to such amazing places with the big rig kids. Those helpful big rig kids. See how they give and grow and get to know amazing things. Learn with the big rig kids, and you'll see how it is to have adventure days and hang and play with all your friends. Because the big rig kids know what it is to live a most exciting and inviting life is positive.
Hello, hello, hello. Before I start speaking with you, we're going to go into the introduction of Miss Cami and Mr. Will Barnes.
Tonight's guest, Cami Barnes, is a wife, mom, CEO, executive director, and a John Maxwell Program certified motivational and keynote speaker, as well as a leadership development coach. Cami has overcome many obstacles and challenges in her life, including being an abuse survivor and a second-generation teen mom who went on to become the first in her immediate family to graduate from college. Cami's experiences as a survivor inspired her to start Safe Space Property Management, Inc., a nonprofit organization that provides supportive services to survivors and domestic violence awareness education to the community. Cami is also the owner and operator of career site LinkedForLaunch.com, an executive search and consulting firm in the greater Atlanta area. Cami's career background is in workforce development, human resources, mental health, social work, and wellness. But it's her passion for inspiring and empowering others that keeps her centered. Cami smashed through several barriers in her life, and now she uses her platform to motivate others to live out their dreams with courage and intention. Tonight's second guest, Will Barnes, is a husband, father, U.S. Marine veteran, entrepreneur, musician, published author, and a John Maxwell certified motivational speaker. Will has a dynamic and powerful message to share and has overcome many obstacles in his life and was able to turn that pain into triumph, from being a childhood survivor of domestic violence to witnessing his mother kill her abuser. Will has a passion for helping others become the greatest version of themselves as they navigate through life's challenges. Visit www.camibarnes.com or www.will-barnes.com to learn more about their dedicated work and save the date and join the Barnes for the Safe Space Property Management's inaugural Thrive Gala on October 29th, 2022 at the Cascade Event Hall in Atlanta, Georgia, where they will be honoring survivors, their sponsors, staff, and community partners. So without further ado, Conversations with Grandma Polly, friends and followers, let's give a warm welcome to our very special guests, Will and Cami Barnes.
Hello, hello, hello. I am excited to have the both of you, husband and wife, here with us this evening.
Yes,
You
yes.
guys have such an incredible story. And I'm just going to open the door and let you guys start where you want to start, and then we'll go into it from there.
I grew up as a young man before my time. I would say, I witnessed my mom go through a lot of hurt, pain, abuse. You know, trying to find love in the wrong places, and it's a lot that I kept in. Just to protect her. And you know, the nights of hearing her arguing and hearing her fighting and us grabbing our things and going, pack your stuff, let's go. We don't know where we're going to be the next night, who's staying with the next night, stuff like that. It's a lot to deal with as a child, and being a survivor now to the point where I can understand why I did what I did. It still to this day bothers me that my mom blames herself, you know, for putting us through a lot of that stuff till this day. She not many relationships she was in, she was abused, and it came to the point where it came off on us. So I just want to say that as a child, parents don't know, the mother or the father, they don't know. They might be keeping a lot of things in, and I think that communication is the best way to get to your child. Even though you might think that you're doing the right thing, there's something that you might not know. You know, and talk to your children as a process of being in relationships. It'll help a lot as far as surviving. Like I said, my mom, she went through a lot. She's healthy today. She works out. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman, and she's living her life now. But like I said, she still blames herself for putting us through all of the stuff that we were in.
Okay, Will, I hear you. And in the things that you just said, we find it, I'm going to tell my age, but from back when I was growing up, even up until now, you find a lot of women and men
Right,
finding themselves in this situation because, like you said, looking for love in the wrong places. Or I feel like I have these kids and I need the help of that extra income, or I just need to have this man in my life. And we don't really realize the damage that it's doing to the children.
right, right, right,
And that's what I focus on most because, my work is mainly with kids. And when it comes down the damage that it does to children, and when I hear of you and Cammie's story, it's just overwhelming to me in a positive way because both of you have been through some type of abuse,
mm-hmm.
but you're able to come together as a family and do away with the negative part of it and create a loving and supportive family. How did this affect you directly as a child?
Well, me, I had a rough childhood. I must say. I found myself acting like the abuser and didn't even know it. Like I never. My wife, she was like, "Do you understand that you have some of his ways?" And it bothered me at the moment when she told me, she was like, "You have some of his ways," and I'm like, "How do I have this man ways? I hate this man. I'll never want to be like this man." But I had to sit down and I had to really think. Like, oh yeah, he did this. I did this. I'm doing this. I had to change. I had to change my ways. And I had to accept the fact that it's not my fault, but I have to be man enough to face my problems and face my issues, what I went through as a child, and 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 change. Because I wanted a healthy marriage. I wanted a healthy relationship, healthy marriage. It was a relationship at the time we got married. Ever since then, it's been beautiful. I mean, I love it. I mean, I just love it. I love marriage. And before marriage, people they were like, "Oh my God, he's married." Because I was. I was out in the streets, like I was literally, yeah. I mean, I was acting like this man, and I never, it never came, across to me that I was acting like this man. These men. It wasn't just this man. It was these men. And I don't know. Like I said, it's just I thank God for change, and I thank God for my wife because she helped me change a lot. Yes.
And you said a lot right there. You thank God for change and you thank your wife for change. But you have to thank Will for change also.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
Because change comes about when we change our way of thinking.
Right, right,
Right.
right, right.
You had God and you had a wife. A lot of people have those things.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't realize that they have to put in the work also.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And I
So you got to give Will some power to
absolutely.
the people.
Yes,
Yes,
Will.
I love that because so many people, they walk with that mindset. Well, this is the way I was raised. This is what I grew up around, and this is what I know.
Right.
But we
That's
have to be willing to change. And we're going to come back to you some more, Will. But, we got to let Kimmy get in here a little bit and tell some of the experiences.
so
Come on, Miss Kimmy.
I'm just gonna piggyback a little bit off of what Will just said because I feel like it's really important for people to understand that children, they only know what they see. So in Will's case, growing up and seeing those things normalized, he didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. So he did have some behaviors in the beginning of our relationship. When we first got together. Woo! I'm talking some rough edges, y'all. Rough edges. Just saying. But like you said, and like I said, children know, I mean, they only know what they see. And so if they've not had that example of seeing what a healthy relationship looks like, a healthy marriage looks like, okay, what does a husband look like? What does a father look like? They're winging it. They don't know. And so subconsciously, even though he hated these men that abused his mom and were disrespectful and all this other stuff, subconsciously, because that's what he saw men do, it was normalized. And so, though he wasn't anywhere near as bad as what he saw growing up, he did have some behaviors that needed to be changed. And so he recognized that. And so whenever he says that I changed him, and I tell him all the time, I didn't change you. I'm just me. I didn't do that. You did that. God, might have worked on your heart and your mind and everything else, but you made the decision to make those changes and you have done it. You have transformed your life. You're awesome. I have never been happier. So yeah, I feel like it was really important to put that out there as well. But yeah, it's really important when it comes to the examples that we set for our children and what they see and what we normalize for them. And that also kind of leads right into, kind of my part of the story, my part as far as the background with safe space and my experiences as an abuse survivor as well. So I am an abuse survivor. I've survived abusive relationships, 2 abusive relationships actually, but I was also a childhood survivor as well. I witnessed my mom being abused by one of her ex-husbands. And similarly to Will, so I didn't have the behaviors of acting out or acting like the abuser, but I really internalized everything. And as much as I hated that man and all the things that I witnessed him do, and I swore to myself I would never, ever end up in a situation like that, I did. And so that's another thing, another big misconception is that there are people who think it can never happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not true. This is unfortunately something that surpasses all socioeconomic statuses, all genders, all races. Anybody can find themselves in an abusive relationship. Anybody can, because guess what? It doesn't start out as abusive. It starts out all rainbows and roses, just like any other relationship, right? And that's how they suck you in. That's how they get you in, with the love bombing and the manipulation and all those things, until one day you just look up and you're just like, how did I get here? So it's a very gradual sort of process. So I said that just to say that, okay, witnessed it as a child, was, had some trauma because of that and as a result of some other things as well, but ended up in an abusive relationship myself. Survived that situation, ended up in another abusive relationship. That's another misconception, is that a lot of people don't realize that you can be in more than one abusive relationship. And if you really think about it, it makes perfect sense, because by the time you have survived a relationship like that, you have been so chipped away at as a person. Your spirit has been broken. You've been chipped away at as a person. So you're pretty much a prime target for another abuser at that point. If you don't heal, if you don't do the work to heal and, know your worth and recognize your worth, you can end up right in another situation. And it would almost, and I'll tell you from my personal experience, it was like I was with the same person again in a different body. Like, some of the characteristics between both the abusers that I was involved with, they were like mirror images of each other in a lot of ways. But it was because I hadn't done the work yet. I hadn't done the work. I hadn't gone to therapy. I was kind of running from the trauma and all just layers and layers of trauma and things that I hadn't dealt with in my life, from a child all the way up to being an adult and a young mom and all those things. And so, yeah, that made me a prime target for another abuser, because my self-esteem was already low. And so when this next person came along with the same characteristics, love bombing and manipulating and all these things, and, oh, I want to be a father to your children and I want to do all this stuff, and then the control started, and then all the red flags and all these other things started. And then I found myself again like, how did I get here? And so finally I had to come to the realization that I didn't have any choice but to do the work. I had to figure out what it was in me that was causing me to continually attract these same types of people. What it was in me that was making me feel like I needed to be in this type of a relationship. And, went to therapy finally. And it all kind of came to a head. Actually, I was in college at the time. And like I said before, I had been running from everything for years, y'all. Everything. I'm talking sexual assault, multiple sexual assaults, multiple abusive relationships at that point. Working to put myself through college. I had two young girls at the time. And I took a women's studies course. During the course, there was a 2-week time frame where they were teaching, the professor was teaching on violence against women. And I was just in shambles. I was sitting there in my class in the lecture. She's teaching on violence against women. And finally, after years and years of trauma that hadn't been dealt with, y'all, I'm talking just tears, I could not stop crying. I was just sitting there, just in a puddle, like shambles, a puddle of tears, because it was just like, and I was like, I couldn't take it. I just broke at that point. And so after the class
I
was over, everybody left out. The professor came and talked to me, and she said, I noticed your reaction to talking about these topics. And we have a group on campus, a group of survivors, domestic violence and sexual assault, and we advocate on behalf of other survivors. We do speak out events. We are supportive of each other. and they just kind of wrapped their arms around me, literally and figuratively. And I credit them for helping me to become the woman that I am today, because that gave me my voice and it made me finally start to heal. I got into therapy.
I get it, Cammy. I want you to put a pin right there because you gave a whole lot of information right there.
It was a lot. I know it's
And I know it is a lot. And I'm listening to you, and I've listened to Will also. And when you speak about the self esteem, when I see you as a beautiful young lady. I see Will as a handsome young man. And somebody may look at you and say, she's such a pretty girl, or he's such a handsome man. Why would they allow themselves to go through this? And the thing is that what they don't understand is that outward appearance, because a lot of times, I know I do, and there are other people out there who do the same thing. We put on a mask. We go outside in public, we go outside around family, we go outside around friends, and all they see is the smile, this happy go lucky person. Oh, this person is so happy, this person is so helpful, this person is always willing to do for others. And what I have found, I was not in a I was never in a domestic abuse situation, but I've survived childhood abuse. And even though we slap different names in front of them, but abuse, there are so many different types of abuse, and it affects us in different ways. Now, I grew up with that mindset because I've seen a lot of domestic abuse around me, and it was like, nah, they going through that, they doing that, they crazy. Ain't no way I'm gonna ever, let a man put his hand on me, or a man beat me down, this, that, or whatever. And I took that mindset after going through sexual trauma at the age of 12. And I would be like Will's mom, even though she went through the different levels of abuses. I had already made up in my mind at an early age that this was not something I'm going to accept. And then we find people who end up saying that they won't, but they do. And would you say it's out of embarrassment and fear that they don't want to tell others what they're going through? They don't want to share the story. Would you say that's the biggest part of it? Embarrassment and fear?
Mhm.
definitely, because you get a lot of judgment. There are people that are going to judge you for it. And then you know what? Another piece that a lot of people miss is that sometimes people don't recognize what's happening to them as abuse. So if this person is strangling you and pushing you down and shoving you down and yanking you around and yanking you up, but they haven't punched you, they haven't hit you. So then
Hmm.
they may not recognize, they may not be like, you know, is this abuse? Because if they have a certain thing in their mind as what they think abuse looks like or what they think abuse is, if you ask them if they're being abused, they would probably say no. Because they're like, oh well, he's never hit me. But he's physically harming you. He's physically intimidating you. He's emotionally abusing you, financially abusing you.
Mm-hmm.
Abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Domestic abuse, even if he does not physically hit you. It's domestic abuse. So that's another component.
I'm glad you went there because that was part that I brought in the beginning. So many see abuse as physical hitting,
Mm-hmm.
but if he's withholding money from you, he's controlling you, he's keeping you away from family, He's keeping you away from friends. Where is manipulation? And like you said, a lot of times in a kind way in the beginning.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I can't remember the name of the movie, and it's on Netflix right now, I think. And I sat in here and I watched it, and that was based on a true story too. This guy manipulated this girl so well. He was one of the charmers, and I would say that's the grooming side of it.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
He was the charmer, and then once she got married to him, he isolated her from her family.
Mm-hmm.
He isolated her from her friend, and she didn't realize what was going on until it got real close to the end, where he really physically attacked her. And when we talk about these things, it have to be an outlet to where people can have that outlet to get to be a friend. Call and check on that person. Ask them how you doing. Are you okay? Because a lot of times I've found also, Tammy, and you guys could elaborate on this. Once people find out you're going through that situation, instead of coming forward to help, they back away out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Could y'all tell us a little bit about that? How sometimes people, they just abandon because I feel like if you came to me and I didn't help you 2 or 3 times and you keep going through the same situation, you hear that person don't want help. They just like what they're going through. Could y'all explain that to us?
Sure. So I'll take that. It's difficult. It's difficult for anybody to know that a friend or a family member is in an abusive situation because immediately you want to help. You want to step in and you want to help. And sometimes the person isn't ready yet. And so I think it's important to understand that in order to really be an ally to somebody that's in an abusive situation, you have to mentally prepare yourself for the fact that the person may not be ready to leave when you're ready for them to leave. Because everybody has a breaking point, and until that person reaches their breaking point, they're not going to leave. Or until certain things are in place, they're not going to leave. But when they are ready, you be ready. You be ready as a support. You help put some things in place and let them know that, you know what, in a very non-judgmental way, say, you know what, I think I understand what's happening to you, what's going on with you. And I just want to let you know that I love you. I care about you as a person. You do not deserve what's happening to you. You deserve better than this. And when you are ready to leave this situation, you have somebody to turn to. I will help you. I will help you get some resources. And I'm here when you're ready. And that piece is important because, as you mentioned, a part of the grooming process and the manipulation piece is that they have isolated their victim to the point where this person that's being abused feels like nobody, by the time they're almost ready to leave, they feel like nobody cares about them. They feel isolated. They feel like nope, they wouldn't have anybody to turn to. So that's why it's key for the people that do want to be allies to let them know that above everything, I do love you, I do care about you. And even though it hurts me that you're going through this and you're not ready to get out of there yet, I want you to know that when you're ready, I'm ready to help. I'm here. I'm ready to help, and that's not going to change. And that's important because when that person does reach that breaking point and they're ready to get out of there, because sometimes it happens all of a sudden. You never know how, I mean, every person is different, every situation is different. One day a light might just switch in the person's head and they're like, you know what? I need to get out of here today because he's going to kill me if I don't get out of here. And then that switch flips and they're like, okay, they're grabbing whatever they need to grab and they're ready to go. And for some people, it may take a couple of times to get to that point where they're ready to leave, and then maybe something is stopping them from leaving. Like, the financial piece. If they've been isolated for several years and they don't have, the financial ability to be able to get out of there, and they have children to think about, oh, well, I don't want to pull my children and uproot them. And, they're comfortable here in the house and I'm going to have to put them in a shelter and I'm going to have to do this and that. So then they might decide, well, I think I'll just stay because I don't want to have to inconvenience my kids. I don't know how I'm going to feed them. I don't know how I'm going to do this and that. So there's lots of different factors as to why some people stay a little bit longer than others and why some people end up going back after they get out. Just some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, that was going to be the next thing that I went into, because sometimes I've seen people get out of the situation, and they've been in the situation for not just a short period of time, but for a good while. Now children and stuff are involved, and they know who they're dealing with, but they're in denial about who and what they're dealing with. Because I've seen situations where the women have got out of the situation. Here comes the man with some flowers or, a gift. And I don't know if you guys ever seen that, but there is a piece that this lady wrote about the flowers kept coming. And that's a deep piece there, because even after they kill you, the flowers keep coming to your grave. And I'm going back to Will, because in all of this, it does so much damage to the child. What would you say to someone who's in a situation like that? Because the kids are watching and they're taking it in. If there was any advice that you would give to someone in a situation like that, rather it be man or woman, what would be your advice to them?
My advice, like I said, I'm big on communication. There's a lot of things that I didn't tell my mom, as far as what I felt and how I was feeling, and to her knowledge, she was thinking that everything was good. She was going along with the whole process of just living to get by. And I'm sitting here taking the mental abuse, the physical abuse, and everything. And I'm keeping it in, thinking I'm protecting her. So I would say, you know, communicate with your parents, or who's ever guarding you, and just let them know how you feel. That might work, it might not work at the time, but you know, like I said, with my wife telling me, like had I been communicated back, when we met in the beginning, I was so hard headed. Like, you can't tell me. I'm so. I was just, I was selfish. You can't tell me. I know what I'm doing. And I'm thinking that, like she said, I'm not physically touching her at all, but I'm saying some things that wasn't even supposed to be said. I'm like, and I'm thinking that's not abuse because I've heard it before. I didn't touch you, so I'm not abusing you. So it all just communication with your, you know, who's ever guarding. Even if you can't, if you're afraid to communicate, I would say, you know, find somebody that you can talk to, and build the courage to communicate. I think communication is a big thing. I mean, like, I teach kids, I train kids, and I work with kids in all the schools, the high schools and the middle schools, and I see a lot of the kids that I know are going through the situation that I'm going through. So I talk to them. I communicate with them, let them know. I'm giving them something they don't see at home. Let them know it's okay. Just to be able to talk to someone, and they talk to me all the time, and it's a beautiful thing. Kids love me, and I see me and them. So I'm like, had I had somebody to talk to, I would go to school, cry at school, just, I'd be so angry at all kinds of things, like, why my mom on this, why my mom on that, and the whole time is, I should tell her, Mom, I love you. I don't want you to go through this, And then some of the times I would tell her, it would be too late, So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think, just communicate. Communication is big to me. Like, a lot of us, we're afraid, to say, anything, Just, I mean, I used to stand at the door and hear my mom screaming, yelling, and I'm little. I'm ready to be like,
Same here.
RoboCop or something, and just break the door down or something, you know. But she'll get mad at me. I'm like, she might get mad at, you know, stay out of grown folks' business and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, so till this day, that's why I'm so protective over my mom and my sisters and my daughters and my kids, my family. I'm so protective, you know. But like I said, you know, it rubbed off as far as like I never hit her, but I've said some things, you know, like, and I'm like,
Anger issues and
anger, you know,
communication issues.
communication.
Yeah, and it is because I'm listening to him, and this is what I'm hearing. And I know just from even my own experience growing up, and after turning 12 and going through what I went through, I became a fighter. You know, you look at me, you say this, whatever. Okay, we get ready to fight. And I have a couple of cousins now who tease me sometimes. They'll be like, "Girl, you was." I said, as a child, I did not understand. As an adult, I realized there was a lot of misdirected anger,
Mm,
That's
and because you did not know how to deal with it, it just went in so many different directions. Whoever was in the path got it,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
you
oh yeah.
know. And that, I think that's what we see a lot in some of our children today.
Mm,
They are
absolutely.
so angry, but they don't know what to do with that anger.
They don't know
So
how
it
to.
turns into self destruction.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just read something across the screen where it was like, what would I tell these young women what the signs to look for when a relationship becomes toxic? Um, you know, I would say behavior like anger issues. When they sometimes they seclude themselves from everything and start being selfish and trying to control you, controlling ways. I mean, it could be the smallest things that you don't catch on to, and they'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so I did this to her. I got away with this one. So let me try something else. You know, let me try this. And
Mm-hmm.
it works again. Oh, now I'm about to step it up a little bit. You know, and then it gets worse, and then it gets worse, and again it gets worse. So I try to talk to my
Mm-hmm.
daughters and like, look, this is what you need to look for. Like I don't want them to see the yelling and the stuff like that. That's why I won't tolerate that in my house. You know, like because man, I used to yell. I used to be angry. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. So
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. There's a question says, did the both of you discuss your abusive life before you got married?
So we had been in a relationship for 2 years before we decided to get married. So by that time, we had had many
oh
discussions
yeah.
about our childhoods and our upbringings, and it was honestly it was necessary because some of I mentioned we both mentioned some of the behaviors and the communication issues that Will kind of had in the beginning of our relationship. It made perfect sense why he communicated the way that he did. And so I'll kind of give y'all even more insight into that. So one of the main things that I used to have to tell him all the time is that look, because of my history, my abusive and trauma history, I don't allow people to raise their voice at me. Period. I don't tolerate that. You're not going to raise your voice at me. You're not going to talk to me crazy. You're going to bring it down a notch. We are going to have a conversation like two adults that respect each other because I don't tolerate that. That's where I draw a hard line. And so that was difficult for him in the beginning of the relationship because in his family, in his history, it's normal to communicate like that. When you're upset about something, blowing up and the loud talking and the all that type of stuff, that was normal for them. That's he didn't know how to express himself and express his feelings and express being upset or disappointed or whatever the case may be. He didn't know how to communicate that without being on 10. And I'm like, I need you to bring it down. You
Yeah.
gonna have to bring it down because we're not doing that. You're not gonna bring it down, baby, bring it down. And so eventually he learned that, and because he loves me so much, he finally started to understand that because of my history of being an abuse survivor, that there are certain things that are triggers for me. So me crazy and the whole, because I'm 5'1". I'm a tiny little thing. I don't know if y'all can tell because I'm sitting down, but he's big. And I love that he's big. Don't get me wrong. But, when there's a dynamic, there's a power dynamic involved, and there's this person that's kind of, and they're just up here. And I'm like, no, I can't tolerate that. So it would sometimes get to a point where I would have to tell him, like, look, I flat out will not accept that from you. So if you love me and you want to be with me, this is something that you're going to have to change and work on, or I can't be with you, period. And that's pretty much just what it was.
Okay, Cam. Now, I've heard you say what you were not going to accept from Will and the things that was triggers from him to you. Now, Will, I'm asking you, were there triggers from Cammy that would put you in that state?
Honestly, I can say that it was mostly me. Like she's a good woman, and it's just I don't know, like I used to see my mom cry all the time, and I used to get so angry, like when people cry, like when I see people that I love cry, and we used to, when we have a little argument, she'll cry, and it just makes me like so angry. I'm like, just stop crying. I can't take this crying. Just stop. And I'm like, and she was like, you need to bring it down a notch. You need to bring it. I mean, she this little jumping up. You need to bring it down a notch. I'm not about to take this. I'm like, and that used to make me so mad. It's like, I didn't know how to process it at the time, because I used to see my mom, just crying, and it used to make me so. Till this day, if my mom cried, that's a trigger for me. Like her tears is like, because I love my mom. She's a great woman, a great grandmother. I love her. I'm a mom's boy, and it's just when I see, and she reminds me so much of my mom too. So it's like I have to protect her. It's nothing that nobody's gonna mess with this woman right here. This is my baby. This is my everything. So I was like, look,
get it.
if you want to keep this woman, you better get yourself together, or else.
And I get it. And I asked that question is because there is a misconception that women go through, abuse. But then here you are from a man's standpoint, you're showing that, you've experienced it, even though it was through your mom's situation. You still experienced it. But there is a question here that someone says, Will, from a male standpoint, what signs of abuse should young women avoid when they are in relationships that may be becoming toxic?
He answered that, Renee.
Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to stop right here for a second because I want to thank everyone for joining in with us tonight. And, someone out there that needs to hear this conversation, share it. Invite your friends over to it. When I want to thank our sponsors, Simone Enterprise and Entertainment Company, and KJ Multimedia Solutions. This conversation would not be possible without them because they have contributed so much. To the people like Cammy and Will who comes in and have the conversation, all the other guests who have been on, with the sponsors that we have. This is why we do what we do. We want people and children to see that whatever it is that you're going through, you're not alone. 9 times out of 10, if you're experiencing it, there's a whole lot of other people out there who has, or either they are, or they will experience some of these same things. So when we come in to have these conversations, It's to provoke thoughts and to provide you with information where you can get help in the things that you need. And Cammie, that's where we're going next because you got your organization where you help people, and you got your husband right there, who's that speaker right there that he got your back. He said, "Ain't nobody, nothing y'all heard. Y'all better try." He done said, "Nobody," because that's his baby, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what you call unity there. So, Cam, yeah, let's go into that organization aspect and some of the things that you have coming up.
Okay, perfect. So, so I was inspired by my experiences to start my 501c3 nonprofit organization, Safe Space Property Management, also known as Safe Space ATL. And we provide supportive services to domestic violence survivors and their children in the greater Atlanta area. Some of those services include safety planning for anyone who is still in an abusive situation and they need help getting out. So we do safety planning with them. We also do short-term emergency shelter, which is basically it's a temporary emergency housing solution until we're able to find a more long-term solution for them, like a shelter bed. Sometimes, well, a lot of times actually, shelter beds fill up pretty quickly, and so there may not always be a shelter bed available for a family immediately, so we can house them in Airbnbs. We also have an agreement with Extended Stay America, so we also house families there until we're able to find a more long-term solution for them. We also provide furniture and household items donations. We do career coaching. In my bio was mentioned that I have my background is in human resources, so I also do career coaching with them as well. And we kind of just assess things on a case-by-case basis to figure out what this individual and their children need, and we just go from there. If we can't provide the service directly, we refer out to other partner organizations in the community. And a couple things we have in the works. We have our first, and it's called inaugural because it's our first one, our first Thrive Gala 2022. It's a fundraising gala that we're having October 29th. We'll be wrapping up Domestic Violence Awareness Month with this Thrive fundraising gala. And so the impact that we want to have with this gala is to demonstrate and celebrate going from surviving to thriving. That's been my situation. That's Will's situation. So many other survivors that have transitioned from being constantly in survival mode to healing and overcoming so many things. And now they're on the other side of it and they're thriving. So we'll be celebrating survivors. We will be honoring our community partners as well. We have our awesome keynote speaker who will be sharing a dynamic message, a dynamic, empowering message.
Yes.
And we also have an art auction. We have a very talented, gifted local artist who will be sharing some original pieces of artwork that are going to be auctioned off as well. We're going to have some awesome food, and it's going to be a great event. And we're also welcoming people to bring a toy for our fourth annual holiday toy and coat drive that happens in December. So all of our Thrive Gala attendees are welcome to bring a toy to contribute to the holiday toy and coat drive, which happens in December. And so we're super excited about that. That is one of our most favorite events that we do every year. Again, this is our fourth year doing the toy drive, and we do coats as well. And one of the main reasons that it's our favorite event is just to see the smiles on those children's faces. So we have 83 children on our list to receive gifts this year from our organization. 83 children that have all been directly impacted by domestic violence. And so to see those smiles on their faces, because a lot of times when their parents do leave the abusive situation, sometimes they're having to leave their belongings behind. And so for them to get new gifts and see those smiles on their faces, and we're going to have activities for them as well. It's our favorite event. So yeah, we're super excited about that. And thank you so much
Thank you.
for having us on to discuss it.
Yes, yes, yes. And Cammy is being modest, guys. Last year, last year, I mean, not just last year, but I've been in Atlanta now, what, January, almost 2 years. And you guys know I do the Easter baskets for the kids doing Easter. Well, this same organization played a big part in us creating those 400 baskets. That's something we will continue to do each year. And Cammy, I thank you guys for the partnership on that.
Sure.
So last year, I myself adopted a family and decided that my organization was going to sponsor this family for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the funds that you guys donated to me last year during the holidays for my holiday drive, this is where it went to. That family provided a list to us, and we got almost everything on the list. And I'm sponsoring that same family again because those kids are what, 10, 11, and 12 now, Cammy? I think they were like 9, 10, and 11, something along that way, but they were young. A grandmother inherited these kids after a domestic situation. So this year we want to do a little more. And we have a flyer. Well, the Big Red Kids have a flyer along with Simone Entertainment that's coming out Saturday, where we're actually raffling off. It's heavy. I'm gonna see, can I pick it up? This hoverboard
Nice.
Nice.
that you can provide to your child, your grandchild, or a niece, nephew, somebody for Christmas. So the flyer is going out for that on Saturday because the funds that we take in from this actually, again, like I said, this family, I've made the commitment to Thanksgiving and Christmas. And hopefully we will raise enough to include a couple of other families in there because my thing is grandmothers. I understand these mothers who have been through the abuse, but the grandmothers are just dear to me because when they end up with these kids, it wasn't planned for them.
Right.
You know, they were through raising their children and now they have had to bury the child's mother and they inherited these young kids and it's like starting all over again.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
that wasn't a plan. Go ahead.
that's important to point out. So this family that she's speaking of, and this is another reason why Safe Space, our organization, is different. There are lots of organizations that help domestic violence survivors, but there are certain stipulations that those larger programs have. So as a smaller community-based organization, we have more flexibility and freedom to help families that may not ordinarily be able to get the help. So this particular family, one of our program participants, it is a grandma who her daughter was murdered by her abuser, and so she's raising her grandchildren as a result of that. She has custody of her grandchildren. The children's father is in prison for killing their mom, her daughter. And because
Yeah.
she wasn't the abused victim directly, there aren't very many organizations that would be helping provide supportive services to her because she isn't the victim per se. But our organization, we've taken them under our wing. Grandma Polly and the Big Rig Kids org, they helped us with them last year. They're helping us with them this year. I also left out that we also did a holiday. We also did a school supplies drive where we passed out crazy
Mm-hmm.
backpacks. We've also helped this particular family with uniforms for the grandchildren, and there's just a variety of different things. Like I said, we take things on a case by case basis. There's no cookie cutter solution when a family comes to us needing help or needing support. And yeah, I'm so grateful for you, and so I'm so thankful that you are on board to support us and supporting this family again this year. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, and I thank you because, like I said, you have supported us, and that's what it's about. We everybody supporting whatever the cause is, and when everybody gives a little, it turns into a lot, and that's what it's about. And this particular family, they're stuck with me. You always have me on the list for that family because that's the one I started out with.
That's
And
awesome.
prayerfully, we could. It depends on what we bring in off of this. Prayerfully, we could pick up a couple of other families, or make a couple of other donations where we can help in those areas. I was raised by my grandparents, so I understand what these grandparents are dealing with. You think you're done and you're enjoying your life, and then now you're starting all over again. So yeah, that's a big thing. So I'm gonna let you guys come in and give your final thought. And I just want to thank y'all for being here again. And this is awesome.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to let you go ahead and say what you wrap it up.
Wrap it up. I mean, domestic violence is very important, but the world doesn't talk about it enough to me. I don't think that is dealt with like it should be. So that's why we're here to do what we can to get it out. Because I mean, I think that people are just beautiful in general. People are beautiful. I don't think that anybody should be abused because it's not a good feeling. And you should communicate the best way you can, if you can, how you can, and get your emotions and your thoughts out to someone that can listen to you, that can help you before it gets to the point where it's too late. Um, I'm in for it. I've been through it, and I want to keep going. My wife, she motivated me to keep. I kept a lot in. She motivated me to just let it out. So I became the butler of safe space, properly managed.
I love that.
I just
He does the heavy
the
lifting. He
heavy
helps
lifting.
move the furniture and the different things. Like we provided a washer and dryer to one of the families, and I can't lift the washer and dryer. Come on, man, you got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I just wanted to say that I want everybody to know, anybody who is a survivor of any kind of domestic violence, any kind of sexual assault and abuse, silence hides violence.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give it that power. Speak up and speak out about it. Speak against it, because guess what? Using your voice, that's where the power comes in. That's where your testimony comes in that can help somebody else get free. Because if somebody else is currently being abused, they don't know what it looks like on the other side of it if they don't have those examples of, you know, like someone like me or maybe somebody else who has a similar background, who now they see, wow, if I get out of this situation, I can rebuild my life. I can do these things. I can be successful. I am powerful. So I think it's so important to speak out about it, because if not for us speaking out about it, nobody would ever know. Nobody would know that it's possible to get out of that and turn your life around and overcome all these things.
Yes, ma'am. I totally agree. You just spoke a mouthful. And like I said, I want to thank you guys for joining us. And you guys are welcome to come back anytime. You know, y'all have an open invitation. And we want to thank Simone Enterprise and Entertainment Company again and KJ Multimedia Solutions. Remember to follow us on all our social media pages. You can go to our website, and that's www.thebigregkids.org. And tell your friends about what we do here. We have the conversation, important things that's happening in our communities. Next week, I have a young lady who has experienced some domestic violence. She has experienced it from, and I think she had it from. She's one person with both of y'all story because she went into it from the childhood. Then she dealt with it as a young adult. She had her first baby at 15 or 16 years old. She went from Section 8 to having some I can't pronounce the word, some nerve problems with her veins and stuff. And going through all those tests, she found out that she had brain tumor. She had cancer on the brain. So after having those surgeries, now she owns her own house and she's published her first book and she's getting ready to graduate from college in December.
Wow.
So these are the people like that I like to bring forward. You know, we tell our adversities, but we want to tell the other side of it too, how we came through it and how we got over it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I said all that to say that tell y'all friends, invite them. You know, these are the conversations that we have. And if y'all know somebody that you feel has a story and want to come on, put them in contact with us. We'll bring them on. Because that's what we're about, highlighting children and adults. And I just want to thank everybody again for joining us. And I'm going to tell you all, I love y'all and peace out.
Here we go.
Hey.